Hello everyone, hello fellow Springbok supporters. I hope everyone is keeping well, keeping safe during these times. Nice to be back with my second part of my trilogy. Obviously the first edition prior to the first test. I drew that one out a bit, minced and mixed up my words. It wasn't great, so hopefully I can do a better job this time around, and I plan to keep it shorter and more to the point. So I'll do my best in that regard. This is where we're at. Springboks are obviously 1-0 down in this 3-match series. Crucial first test went the way of the Lions. There wasn't a whole lot in it, but probably if you look across the entirety of the game, one might argue that the Lions were value for their win. It doesn't matter whether they're value or not, really. I mean, the fact remains that they are 1-0 up in the series, and it's obviously an extremely important result. Many would say a more important result for the Lions than it would have been for the Springboks if they had won that test match. But that's debatable, obviously. So what I want to just focus on for now is just looking back briefly at that test match. I can only speak from my own opinion, and obviously in terms of all the material that I've sort of been consuming quite regularly. There's been tons of stuff in the open media space with regards to the series, a lot of opinions and so forth. And then obviously, just looking at the selections leading into the second test from both sides' point of view, and what those selections might imply in terms of how the two teams are looking to set themselves up for Saturday. So let's just look a little bit back on last week Saturday. Flip. Let's take a step back as well. I mean, how awesome was it to be able to watch a proper game of Test match rugby? I mean, we've been so deprived of that, and whether you're a Boks supporter or a British and Irish Lions fan, no one would argue that the intensity was right up there. I mean, I thought to myself the other day that I didn't even actually didn't even notice that there weren't spectators in the stadium, to be honest, because the ferocity and intensity of the collisions in that match were just so intense that sorry, that's my dog's going nuts in the background. But you almost didn't even realize that there weren't fans around, because there was so much coming out of the game from the players themselves. So I mean, it was obviously a tale of two halves. Very cliche thing to say, but it was particularly true of what happened last week Saturday. And I was extremely excited, like most Springbok fans were, in terms of the way we conducted ourselves in that first half. We looked pretty polished. I mean, you would never have thought that we had barely played a test match in 2 years. We controlled the game. We won the gain line battle. We weren't massively dominant in the set pieces, but we were dominant enough. I mean, we had enough of a foundation coming off that. And I think what the coaches have spoken a lot about in the media is that we dominated the aerial battle in that first half, and that's very true. So we were getting decent momentum, decent go forward ball, and we were kicking, moving forward. So, we were able to contest well in the air, and we got some rewards out of that. And then obviously, we were able to draw out a few penalties. The Lions missed, I think they missed 2 kicks in that first half. So that one long one from Elliot Daly, which fell short. And then the other one from Bigger. So, look, one or two of those penalties are made, and it's only a 3 or 6 point ball game. But nevertheless, we went in the break with a 9-point lead. So I'm stating the obvious here. Let's move on. Getting on to the second half. It was really disappointing. I don't want to take credit away from the Lions, because the Lions came out with a real sense of purpose in that second half, and it was evident right from the beginning. And I think many people agree that the turning point in that half, when that whole match, in fact, happened, a couple of minutes into the second half, when Eddie Price, kicked that box kick, well placed, caused a bit of indecision between Willie and Kwagga, dropped, the ball bounced, and that was just a disaster. As that ball bounced, I was just like, shit, don't let the ball bounce. And then they drew a penalty from that. Kicked it out, set up, and then from that phase of play, a couple of phases in from that set phase of play, they actually drew a second penalty with a high hit on the Irish centre. I just can't think of his name right now. It's escaped me. But anyway, so that's I found it interesting as well that we decided to contest that line out. I mean, I've never really seen that from the Springboks, like contesting a line out in the red zone like that. You know, when you basically, like, in all likelihood, going to have to be defending like a rolling maul. That was an interesting decision. So I was a little bit taken aback by that. But obviously they did a calculation. They obviously figured it was worth the risk. They backed themselves to potentially steal that ball. Didn't work out. Okay, so anyway. So and then from there, yeah, I mean, you know, there were a couple of decisions in that half which are, you know, highly debatable, quite contentious, around the scenario with the TMO Maurice Jonker, Nick Berry. Obviously, having watched Rassie's hour-long video yesterday, it's interesting food for thought, let me put it that way. I don't want to spend too much time focusing on that stuff. This is all off-the-field stuff. I find it a little bit sad that this is the way the series has gone, that it's being so dominated by what's been happening off the field with these games between Gatlin and Rassie and whatever. I mean, really, it's all a load of garbage. Like, I mean, Rassie makes some excellent points. I mean, I've got a tremendous amount of respect for Rassie, and I can fully understand where he's coming from. I've been more disappointed in the Lions, the way they've conducted themselves in this tour, the way they've gone to the media, the way Gatlin went into the media with regards to Maurice Jonker. It wasn't the right way to conduct himself, and Rassie pointed that out in the video. And now it's just become tit for tat, and it's like both teams are like, you know, like doing their best to control the narrative and to, you know, to have an influence over the officials, which is not, it just should never be about that. They shouldn't be allowed from either side, to be honest. So maybe what will come out of this in time is that they'll start to get a bit stricter on what can and can't be said in the media. That could be an interesting one, although, you know, you can't really regulate that, so it's tricky. But yeah, what will be in terms of Rassie. He made a bold statement. That's pretty ballsy, taking on World Rugby like that and officiating and all the rest of it. And I mean, he was pretty firm in terms of, you know, Nick Berry, and I mean, he spoke fact and he spoke truth, but it's unlikely to see it ending well for him. You know, there's going to be sanctions and whatever. So like whatever, that'll play out the way it's going to play out. Nothing can change that now. What we need to focus on is the second Test match, and I think I have no doubt in my mind that the players are going to be extremely focused from both sides, obviously. I don't think this distraction is going to have any impact whatsoever on the players, at least. Time will tell whether it's going to have any impact on the officials. The one thing that concerns me a little bit, to be perfectly honest, and I more than anything, I just hope for like a good second Test match where it's fairly adjudicated, where there's no favouritism to either side, that both captains are treated with the respect that they deserve, that they both have a fair opportunity at the referee's ear. They're treated the same way. I mean, Rassie made some excellent points there, and that's definitely valid, you know. And these referees must stop getting controlled by Alan Wynne-Jones. In my opinion, it's absolute bullshit. The way they kind of fear him, and you can just see by the body language from Alan Wynne-Jones and the body language from the officials, there's something not right there. And they need to get order back. Like, Alan Wynne-Jones needs to be told that he's not refereeing this game. He's a captain and he can say things, but the referees make the final decisions, and they must not be influenced. And it must be consistent, you know, with all captains. So, you know, for Sia and for Alan Wynne the same way. So anyway, here's to hoping. Let's hope we have a good second Test. I'm a little bit fearful that this Rassie thing is going to influence the officials a bit, and it could actually backfire on us even more, to be honest. I'm a little bit worried that, I don't know, that Ben O'Keefe, I think his name is, the New Zealand referee. I don't know how strong a character he is. You know, you need a strong individual in these games to referee these games, to control these players and to control how the captains are trying to dominate situations in terms of getting into the referee's ear or whatever. A guy like Nigel Owens was like amazing at that, and it's sad that we don't have him around refereeing anymore. But I just hope this Ben O'Keefe can keep like a level head, and he can just be a strong enough individual in his own right to say, listen guys, these are the boundaries that are in place, and don't overstep those boundaries, kind of thing. And I will referee this game, and you can talk to me, but like, you know, don't overdo it. So yeah, I'm hoping it's going to go that way. In terms of the actual Test match, let's look at selections briefly. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Three changes on both sides. I mean, I think a lot of people felt like the Lions might just, you know, stick to their formula in terms of the players that they selected. I mean, what's fairly clear from the selections they've made is that they are potentially, well, it looks like they're going to be taking a little bit more of a conservative approach into the second Test. It's the idea of like defending a lead, I suppose. So they're going to play I think they're going to play the percentages big time in this Test match. You know, they've selected, Robbie Henshaw was the Irish centre's name earlier that I forgot about, it just came back to me. But they've selected, I can't think of the other bloody centre's name, the Scottish guy. I'm hearing this. Anyway, Everyone knows what I'm talking about. They've brought in the Scottish 13, he's a good player. I mean, he's solid. He's obviously a specialist 13, which Elliot Daly isn't, and that did show up in his positional play in that first test. So I think they're trying to address the positional elements, and they're also aware of what a threat Lukhanyo is, both on attack and on defence, in particular on defence. So they feel like they need a specialist 13 to match up against him. And this guy, the Scottish fella is. He's supposed to be, he's got quite a reputation defensively, in the Six Nations. I mean, we'll see how that works out for him on Saturday. But yeah, that's the idea behind that. And then obviously Vunipola coming in. I mean, he had an impressive outing off the bench, and he's a pretty solid player. Scrum wise, not incredible, but will definitely definitely hold his own. And I think it's in the loose play where he can add a lot of value. He's a talented individual. And then the final change. Where was the final change? Gosh, I'm losing my mind here. Can't even actually figure out what that final change was. But so the Lions have made 3 changes. Anyway, so let's just move on from that. I don't know. My mind's at sea with this stuff. But I certainly know what the box changes were. So let's focus more on the box, shall we? So anyway, the point being that the Lions, it's most likely that we're going to see them adopting the game plan that they showed more of in the second half of this last test, as opposed to the first half. So, it could be a case, and I'm a little bit concerned about this, in fact, because I hope the game doesn't go this way. But it could be a little bit of a situation of like what we saw in the semi-final of the World Cup, South Africa against Wales. We both teams played what they call a suffocating gameplay approach, where it's very heavily focused on territorial gain, and basically forcing the other team to make the plays, and that would make sense for them to do that to us, because they feel like we've got to make the plays because they won up in the series, and the talk is that they just want to try and make sure that they don't go down by too many points leading into the half an hour, 14-minute mark. That's their kind of idea, because they believe they've got the advantage over us in the second half because of what everyone's been talking about in terms of our lack of energy, lack of gas in the tank, COVID, the implications of COVID, blah, 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 you know what I mean? So that we're going to tire out and we don't have the stamina that they do. Personally, I think it's a little bit overrated, to be honest. I just think we didn't play well in the second half last week. I don't think it was directly as a result of us not having enough energy or being fatigued. I mean, I'm not saying it would have had something to do with it, but I don't think that was the major reason. I think we were just inaccurate. We were inaccurate in executing our game plan in that second half, and we were dominating the aerial battle, which had a huge influence in the game. And let's be honest, guys. I mean, we lost by 5 points, and there was one highly contentious decision with the kick through, and then potentially a second contentious decision with the Colby knock-on, only because of the fact that, like as Rassi pointed out, there was foul play leading up to that, and the referee wasn't even interested in looking at that. And in terms of the rule book, it does appear that foul play takes precedence over an infringement, even if the infringement was prior to the foul play. So, and then there were a few other incidents where we were sort of fairly blatant penalties which didn't go our way. I mean, look, it's skewed to one side. I mean, someone could produce some of the footage, I have no doubt, about stuff that the box did wrong, where the Lions should have gained penalties, which they didn't. So, like, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But nevertheless, those 2 incidents, 5 points in it, it's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So I think we mustn't get too ahead of ourselves. And there's a few people that have been saying, our game plan's wrong, in the aftermath of this defeat. And it's just absolute rubbish. Like, what crap. I mean, you lose by 5 points. The British Irish Lions are a phenomenal side. They're made up of 4 countries. And all of a sudden, there's something wrong with our game plan. And, people are so quick to forget, what this game plan has achieved for us in terms of winning our World Cup and various other things. Dora, shut up! So that's kind of that. Looking at the box selections, obviously probably the most topical one I'd say would be Jasper Wiese coming in for Kwagga. I felt sorry for Kwagga, but he was a little bit hard done by in that first test. He had a decent first half, and he was there. He was left out to dry a little bit in terms of some of the tactical decisions from our side, in terms of how where we were placed and set up for the receiving of the kicks and so forth. So I don't think you can directly blame him. But I think the reality is that Kwagga's a great guy, great player. But his game doesn't really suit the way the Springboks are set up. And the Lions definitely targeted him a bit because they saw him as a bit of a weak link in the pack potentially, in terms of the way we play such a physically dominant brand of rugby. So I think Jasper Wiese definitely ticks that box. I mean, he's a big physical guy. He's going to crash it up hard. He's going to draw on defenders. You know what I mean? He's going to be about them in a big way. I think he's going to make potentially a couple of bone-crunching hits and flip. I'm super excited to see that happen. And I think he's going to bring something different. And I think he's going to complement the rest of our pack quite nicely. Obviously the changes in the front row are definitely interesting. One of them being injury enforced with Ox, which is sad for Ox because he had a fantastic 40 minutes, and it's just sad that he got that neck injury. He deserved to stay on for longer, and I think he would have if he hadn't been injured. And then Trevor was also very impressive. So I had my reservations about Trevor leading into the first test. I was worried about his influence in the scrum and his the potential of him like losing his footing, which has happened a bit lately, and collapsing scrums and so forth. And it didn't materialise at all. I mean, we actually had dominance in the first half in the scrum, and the Lions have said that they were very disappointed in how their scrum went in the first sort of half an hour. So Trevor will be nice to come off the bench. Vincent Koch is a nice addition as well coming off the bench. I rate him highly. He's a good player, very solid in the set piece, and he's decent in the tight loose. So I think that's those are pretty positive changes. Everyone was saying, oh, whatever, the bomb squad, they had no impact. Like what's going on here? Like I think it's an overreaction, to be honest. I think let's just be honest about this. Like we have an over expectation in terms of what our bench is supposed to deliver because of what happened in the World Cup. That's not going to carry on forever, okay, guys. So let's just let go of that a little bit, okay. I don't think it's directly reflective on Kitsy and Francois Herbert having a terrible second half. It was just that we didn't play well as a team. We didn't execute our game plan. So now it's just easy to blame those guys because they came with the bench and we were expecting so much from them. So I think watch the space. Kitsy's got a point to prove. He's got his 50th Test match. He did make one or two mistakes by his own admission in the second half. We gave away one scrum penalty. And he wasn't great by his own high standards. You'll see a different Stephen Kitsoff this weekend. I guarantee you. The spicy plum. I mean, he's going to be out to prove a point. And good luck. Good luck. He's not a guy that you really want to get in the way of. He's a flipping seriously impressive rugby player, and I rate him very highly, and I back him 100% this weekend. Same thing goes for Francois Herbert. I mean, he's an excellent tight head prop, and I think we're going to see the best of him this weekend. I think ultimately what's going to happen this weekend is our players are going to rise to the occasion. There's going to be a lot of desperation in our team, but from a positive point of view, desperation to get the result. I think we know what's required to get that result. Ultimately, both teams are going to improve. I have no doubt about that. The Lions are going to be extremely, combative and formidable, and it's going to be a massive challenge for us to overcome them. But I feel in my heart and my head that we can do it, that we can get over the line against them, we can level the series. I really hope so. It'd be an absolute tragedy if this thing gets clinched on Saturday and we have a dead rubber in the third test. It'll be bleak, but obviously it's a possibility. Of course, we do have to kind of face that, I suppose, in the background. I hope it doesn't happen, but I don't believe it will. I think we've got enough. I see us being able to improve by 20% actually. I think based on what we learned from last week, based on the game time, how useful that game time would have been to us, to our players. It wouldn't have been as useful to the Lions players as it would have been to us because they had more preparation leading into the test. So I just think, we're going to gain more from that. I think the Lions will improve, let's say, by 10%, and I think we'll improve by 20%. If that happens, then we end up, making up that 5-point deficit plus a bit, which will be enough to get us over the line and win the second test. So all in all, the scoreline prediction, I haven't really given it much thought at all. But I see us being able to score, sort of 2 tries in the game, a couple of pens. I feel like we're going to probably get into the mid-20s. So I'm going to go with 26 Boks, 18 Lions, let's say. I'm also noticing that we're almost on the 20-minute mark here, 19 minutes in the video. So, guys, I hope you all enjoy the game on Saturday. Let's hope we get a good result so we can, talk about the deciding third test, which would be incredible. And let's hope that we have a really good game of rugby. Let's hope that, it's going to be physical. It's going to be massive collisions. There's so much on the line here. The stakes are just incredibly high. Let's hope that we don't have any cards, yellows or reds. It's just shit for a game, really. I don't want to see it happening to either side, particularly reds. And let's hope that we get good decision making from the referees, and we have clear decision making from them, in terms of like, if it goes upstairs to Marius Jonker, that the communication is efficient, that it works well, that they come to the right conclusions and right decisions, because it's not that difficult, and they really shouldn't be getting things wrong. So yeah, here's to hoping that all goes well, that there's going to be no reason for either side to have to talk about the referees whatsoever, because that's not what this game's about. It's about the players, and it's about having a good game of rugby, and may the best team win at the end of the day, which is going to be the Bokke boys. Come on, Bokke!